Long ago, in a peaceful forest ashram, two young boys sat together under the shade of a massive banyan tree. One was Krishna, a boy with skin the color of dark rain clouds, and the other was his dear friend Kuchela, a quiet and gentle scholar. They spent their days reading ancient texts and sharing simple meals of wild fruits. Their bond was pure and magical, unaffected by who they were or where they came from. Even as children, they understood that true friendship was the greatest treasure of all. Those golden days in the quiet woods eventually ended, but the memories stayed deep within their hearts. Years passed like leaves drifting down a quiet stream. The two friends grew up and their paths went in very different directions. Krishna became the grand and powerful king of a glittering island city called Dwaraka, surrounded by oceans and wealth. Kuchela, however, remained a humble scholar who lived in a crumbling mud hut at the edge of a lonely village. He was so poor that his clothes were torn into ragged strips, earning him the name Kuchela. Despite his extreme poverty, his mind was always calm and fixed on his devotion to the divine, never complaining about his hardships. The winters grew colder, and the rains washed away what little comfort they had left in their tiny home. Kuchela's family often went to sleep with empty stomachs, listening to the wind howling through the cracks in the walls. Seeing the pale faces of her starving children, Kuchela's wife approached him with tears in her eyes. She gently reminded him of his powerful childhood friend, King Krishna, and suggested that he visit the Golden City to ask for a little financial help. Kuchela was terrified of begging, but the thought of seeing his dear friend again filled him with a quiet joy. A great king like Krishna could not be visited with empty hands, but the ruined hut held absolutely nothing of value. Kuchela's resourceful wife went to their kind neighbors and managed to gather a few handfuls of dry flattened rice. She wrapped this humble offering in a piece of torn, faded cloth and tied it tightly into a small bundle. Kuchela held the little pouch close to his chest, knowing it was Krishna's favorite childhood snack. With a heart fluttering between deep embarrassment and eager anticipation, the ragged scholar stepped out of his village and began the long journey toward the sea. The road to Dwaraka was long and punishing for a man who had eaten so little. Kuchela walked barefoot through dense green forests and crossed wide, rushing rivers that sparkled under the midday sun. His thin legs ached with every step, and the rough stones bruised his feet, yet he never once thought of turning back. The memory of Krishna's warm smile was like a glowing lantern guiding him through the exhausting days and chilly nights. Whenever he felt too tired to continue, he clutched the small pouch of flattened rice, finding strange comfort in the simple gift he carried. Finally, the endless dusty roads gave way to the breathtaking sight of Dwaraka rising from the blue ocean. The city walls gleamed with pure gold, and massive gates studded with precious gems stood open to welcome travelers. Kuchela arrived at the palace entrance, looking entirely out of place among the finely dressed merchants and royal guards. He stood awkwardly near the towering marble pillars, his torn clothes flapping in the salty sea breeze. The tall guards looked at the frail, dusty beggar with suspicion, wondering why someone so ragged would dare to approach the grand palace of their majestic king. Deep within the cool marble halls of the palace, King Krishna sensed a familiar presence at his gates. Without a moment of hesitation, the Grand King dropped his royal duties and ran swiftly toward the entrance. The guards watched in absolute shock as the lord of the city pushed past them to embrace the dirty, frail beggar. Krishna wrapped his arms tightly around Kuchela, tears of pure joy streaming down his dark cheeks. The overwhelming love of the meeting washed away all the years of separation and the vast differences in their worldly status, leaving only two childhood friends reunited. Krishna gently took his bewildered friend by the hand and led him deep into the magnificent royal chambers. He seated the trembling Kuchela on his own luxurious, silk-draped bed, entirely ignoring the dust covering the scholar. With his own royal hands, Krishna brought a golden bowl of cool, scented water and carefully washed his friend's bruised and tired feet. He offered the exhausted traveler sweet nectar and fresh fruits on silver platters, treating him with the highest honors imaginable. Kuchela sat quietly, overwhelmed by this flood of pure affection that asked for absolutely nothing in return. As they sat together sharing fond memories of their time in the forest ashram, a heavy realization hit Kuchela. He looked around the glittering room filled with glowing lamps and fine jewels, and then looked down at his lap. He tried to hide the tiny, ragged pouch of flattened rice beneath his torn shawl, feeling deeply ashamed. How could he offer such a pitiful, dry snack to a king who dined on the finest delicacies in the world? His heart hammered with anxiety, and he firmly decided to keep the humble gift hidden away to avoid insulting his host. But nothing could be hidden from the all-knowing eyes of the divine king. Krishna noticed Kuchela trying to conceal the small bundle and playfully grabbed his arm with a wide smile. He snatched the torn cloth away, opening it to reveal the dry, dusty grains of flattened rice. Instead of being disappointed, Krishna's eyes lit up with immense delight as he grabbed a handful and ate it eagerly. He chewed the simple food as if it were the most delicious feast, proving that any offering made with pure love is always accepted with endless joy. That night, Kuchela slept peacefully on a soft mattress for the first time in many long, painful years. The warmth of Krishna's friendship filled his soul with a deep, unbreakable sense of calm and spiritual fulfillment. He realized that he did not need heavy gold or silver coins to be truly happy in this vast world. His devotion alone was enough to sustain him, completely erasing the bitter pains of his empty stomach and leaking roof. Surrounded by total luxury, the humble scholar remained perfectly content with nothing, desiring only the continued grace of the divine presence. When the golden morning sun rose over the ocean, it was time for the scholar to return to his family. Kuchela slowly walked out of the palace gates, carrying nothing more than the ragged clothes he had arrived in. He had spent hours talking with the king, but found himself entirely unable to ask for a single coin of wealth. The thought of using his deep friendship just to gain material favors seemed completely wrong to his pure heart. He waved goodbye to Krishna, feeling totally empty, handed but carrying a spirit that was overflowing with quiet satisfaction. The journey back to the village felt strangely different than the painful walk to the grand island city. Kuchela did not notice the sharp stones under his bare feet or the heat of the fierce afternoon sun. His mind was constantly replaying the beautiful moments of the royal welcome and the sweet taste of true companionship. He wondered briefly what he would tell his hopeful wife, but he knew she would understand the deep value of his spiritual journey. He walked with a light, floating step, completely unaware of the magnificent magic that was already unfolding miles away. As Kuchela finally approached the familiar dirt path leading to his home, he stopped and rubbed his eyes in disbelief. The crumbling mud walls and the leaking roof of his tiny hut had completely vanished from the landscape. In its place stood a towering, majestic palace made of glowing white stone, surrounded by lush gardens and fountains. Gentle deer rested under fruit-bearing trees, and the air was filled with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine flowers. The poor scholar stood frozen at the ornate gates, wondering if he had somehow wandered into the wrong village by mistake. The heavy wooden doors opened, and a beautifully dressed woman rushed out to greet him with a bright smile. It was his own wife, wearing fine silk and delicate jewelry, followed by their healthy, well-fed children. Kuchela finally understood the silent, boundless blessing that his dear friend had bestowed upon his struggling family. Krishna had showered him with endless prosperity without ever needing to hear a single word of request. And so the humble scholar lived the rest of his days in comfort, forever grateful that true grace looks only at the purity of the heart.